Hey guys, it's Al and welcome back to the channel. Today what I wanted to talk about was something I had mentioned in the previous post regarding the enslavement of our race and some of the things that we're looking at and things that you just should be aware of that kind of break you free of the chains that bind you to that reality, and understand that where we're going as a collective in divine union with God, Allah, whoever you believe in, is taking us away from that enslavement into freedom, true freedom, and especially spiritual abundance as opposed to spiritual poverty where we've been. And so one of the things I wanted to talk about was one of the things I had mentioned was that they were perverting what is called the purification process, which is what we as souls and beings are going through at the moment, with everything kind of falling apart and whatnot. And what I wanted to address was, though their perversion is that they are personifying the dark side of that energy, where they're all about like genocide and getting rid of African American and Hispanic people because they think that we're the abomination, they consider us savages and all that stuff. That is the negative, right? So let's calibrate ourselves into what it actually is intended to do and what the point of the purification process is. So when Christ returns, it's the second coming and it's judgment time. And so as part of that, what it speaks to is actually speaking to the purification of our soul, getting rid of toxins, getting rid of all of the things that have made us sinful, depending on what your religious background is. If you're Jewish, it may not be the exact same as if you're Catholic, or if you have ministry, then you are talking about scripture. So it just depends on where your specialty is, right? Because you're not just leading a spiritual movement, you are now the mountain, and of which people will climb up into the light, right? So that's super important to remember. Those of you who I'm speaking to are not that there's any variation, but you're at a level now where you've reached the top of your mountain and you have aligned with the divine, whatever you call it, and you are now acting and facilitating instead of just as a beacon. You are now the mountain, which other beacons are about to start ascending, right? And so because of that great honor, I wanted to go over what the purification would be entailing and why. So when you are becoming one with the divine, and when you're walking in his, hers, or its reverence, then you understand that you are not walking on just your own behalf. You are now connected to that higher self aspect of yourself that is in alignment with that beauty and that energy of love, peace, integrity, humility, all of the great stuff. But during that process, you have to go through a purification point where you are doing things like you're being celibate. It's not forever, but especially if you're coming into union with another entity that's equally as powerful as you are, then you understand that you are being purified, so that whether you're male or female, the seed, if you will, is pure. And so when those two energies come together, a holy union, whether it's gay, straight, whatever it is, remember, God doesn't make mistakes. So it's not our judgment. It's not our place to even question it. It's just that these beings that are coming together will be unioned under sacred unions, and they will form a tie that has never been seen by our planet before. And that's part of the freedom. It's part of the collaboration efforts, that it's a part of the collective army that's being formed. And so I'm sorry, I'm looking at my notes. I take notes. But you see what I'm saying? So because of that, just be aware of the fact that the purification then also gets rid of toxins. Like if you used to do drugs and now you're not doing drugs like me, then you're going through a whole cleansing. If you are a Catholic or Christian, then you are definitely going through what do they call it? Fasting. If you are whatever everybody's denomination is, whatever your sense of cleansing is. For me, it's more about watching what I eat. I'm all about juices now. I've had to taper down my Coca-Cola intake. I don't do drugs at all. I'm being in a celibate state until my partner and I come into union, and I don't even, this person and I have a past, but not of this life, and so I don't know the specifications other than we are attracting each other at this time, and that's part of faith in God, is just understanding that there's something that I know innately, that I'm purifying my seed, if you will, for my partner. And it's a dude too, by the way. So it's very interesting that you still go through the same process, because we're still divine beings. So just understand that don't let anybody confuse you on your connection with the divine, because I've said it before, the divine does not now nor will ever make mistakes. It is the divine perfection. It's the only thing that is perfect, is the love of God. So anyone who tries to break that down is not of God. So just remember that. But also remember that during the purification process, you are going to be going through things like I did a lot of sinning with my mouth, right? And so like I ended up with like an abscess and then all of this other stuff, and its toxins are being bled out. You'll have like your ears may run. I've never had it personally, but I've seen it happen with other people during the process. You're going to go like diarrhea like crazy. I think that's more for, I don't want to say it like in a sexist way, but I think for me personally as a guy, I experience diarrhea and flushing out the system much more than vomiting. But for ladies, I hear that there's a lot more vomiting. I think it just has to do with our bio and in our insides are just a little bit different. I don't know what it is, but I think that it could vary. So it's going to be a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, and so just understand that your body is literally removing anything toxic and that it's not for your highest good, because where we're going is basically the heavens are descending and we are ascending, and so we're going to meet in the middle where heaven becomes earth. And so those that are in a purification point right now are on in the light are the ones that are actually doing the cleansing and naturally doing things that the divine is asking you to do that you never thought you would do. Like I was like, oh, I'm not giving away my freedom, but blah blah blah. And then now I realize that that is my freedom. My freedom is to be free, completely free from the shackles. And so it was an indoctrination that I had been stuck to that said that, oh, you give away your freedoms by working with the divine. You see what I'm saying? So it's like a trap. So get away from that trap, but you have to follow your own intuitive voice, because this stuff that's coming across, I'm just like, it doesn't bother me anymore, and I'll explain why. Because it's one of the benefits of going through the purification process and actually walking with the divine. At some point, you get taken off the board. They can't fuck with you no more, because everything you seal the doors. There's nothing they can get into. You no longer have any crutches or anything that you need to worry about. So it like when you see those movies where there is like some sort of sphere protecting a group of people, and that you just see it like hitting this invisible wall. You hear it, and honestly, at this point, I just look up at it. I'm like, oh, that's kind of pretty, but it doesn't affect you. It doesn't reach you. You're so impenetrable. You're divinely protected in a sphere. And that's what happens when you finish the purification process, because once you get your keys, then you are free to move in alignment with the divine. And so just be aware, though, that you're going to be detoxed, and you're going to go through this point and this portal where you suddenly stop wanting to eat certain types of foods, or if you do, your body will immediately be like, I don't like that at all, like bathroom. And so you become one. And so I know that for a lot of Christians and Catholics, they're going through fasting, and that's whatever your connection to the divine is so unique that just follow your own path. But for me, like, it's been like I walk everywhere, and here's why. This is interesting. I used to feel like walking was why do I have to keep walking all this stuff when I was going through the purification process? What I didn't realize is that it was communion. It was nonstop communion with the divine, because when you walk and you're not listening to music or you're not doing it, you literally have no choice but to hear the voice of God. And the more in alignment you are with God, the more that it becomes part of you, and so you are then able to absorb the beauty and the grace that goes with that. And so understand that it is the ultimate reward, but it's a little bit jarring. And so whatever your process is, keep going, but understand that also part of that is the testing phase. So during the purification process, when you are being purified of whatever you consider to be sin, it's a variable depending on your connection with the divine, you have to understand that you're going to be tested. And here's the thing. Everything that you experience is not accidental. Everything is on purpose. So there are people who are, yes, negative, and all of those negative Nancy's are going to test you the wrong way. But understand that you're also going to be equally tested by angels and by guides and by God, because they need to make sure that the truth of you can go through the fire. If they sense that you are, or if someone, let's say, accuses you, like a negative energy says, oh, this person's not being real, oh no, that this can't be real, blah blah blah. Like, there's always energy there, and if you're susceptible to it, then they have to check, and it's just due diligence. Like any process, it has due diligence, right? But when you are an honest person, and when you step into that presence of the divine, then what happens is that the testing eventually stops, because they realize that you are absolutely who you are, and that truth of you cannot be disturbed. And so once that happens, you're good to go, and you're taken off the board. No, the negative energies, nobody can touch you. Like, you are non-touchable in that way, as far as energetically, and as far as spiritually. So you no longer have to deal with spiritual warfare, because that is a real deal. I'm doing this because for those of us at this frequency, you probably aren't dealing with it as much. You're at the end stage, so it's probably like a lot coming at you at once, but you're now like, please, these motherfuckers right here. You know what I mean? Like, you have that, but for the general population, the spiritual warfare is a big deal, right? And so when it comes to the process, what I wanted you guys to think about is the testing. Don't ever always look for the negative aspect to it, because it's the easiest thing to see on a lower side. But what you're not realizing is that you're going to be put into situations during the process of the purification that test your resilience. For me, the final one that really broke the mold was the music. I finally got over that when people blared their music, and it just used to annoy the hell out of me. And then I finally got over it, and that's when I got my new place. You see what I'm saying? So you understand that you're going to be tested with what triggers you, and then when you stop being triggered, then you're good to go. But during the purification process, remember that you're being detoxed, you're not feeling well, and so it's going to probably feel like the worst at times, and that's when they're going to come at you on the light. The good side is going to come at you the most, because the masters and elders want to make sure that you don't bring drama to the house. And so you have to be strong in your faith, in your willingness to understand the general world, and you have to be non-judgmental. You know what I mean? So they're going to do things to test you. Now remember, there's a difference between a negative energy, which you can tell, a negative energy that's trying to goat you and trigger you for that's all a different thing. But there are life lessons that you immediately, at this level where we are all at, you will immediately know, oh, that's a test, and it'll be just a test. Like, you will register in your mind with clarity that it's a divine test, not a negative test. Two separate spheres, right? So, but when you're in it, just remember that how you feel is a factor in how you are dealing with things. Because, like, let's think of somebody who's just not in a good mood, and I come in like all super sunny, shiny, like, hey, it's a beautiful day, blah blah blah, and you're like, you know, if you're a female having cramps, and you're just like looking at me like this motherfucker, like you can, if you're not in alignment, you can think, oh, why am I, you know, and you can get triggered. Why am I thinking this way? And why am I being so negative? And you cannot, when you're in alignment, you just go, I'm not feeling well. That's not really helping me right now. You see what I'm saying? So that's one of the things that you want to be aware of in this process. But when it comes to the process of, the roommates. So that's one of the things that you'd have to be aware of. Know yourself, know thyself, to my own self be true. You only are the person who can understand what it means to see those variables, right? And so, because what happens is when people are trying desperately to ascend, then what little things that can happen are that they can then start acting in ways that are counterintuitive. They start to almost trick themselves into thinking that they're backsliding, and they're not backsliding. They're actually just being real. And so understand that you're still a human being, and you're just not feeling well. But if someone's around who's a negative influence, they can manipulate you into thinking that you're slipping backwards. And so that's what I'm cautioning you. Don't fall for it. It's a big boo-boo. It's like a big trap. And so what you want to be aware of in your purification is that you're going to have energies coming at you, especially at the beginning, that are negative, because they know that you're not feeling well. And so then you're going to have the white light that's going to test you to make sure that you're standing in your power and that you're confident. Now remember, this side is built like strengthening you. It is a strength endurance thing, right? And so you're going to be thanking this energy. And there's a big difference between that energy and this energy. You see what I'm saying? So just be aware, and then just know your body. If you're not feeling well, just be honest and say, I'm not feeling that great today, or whatever it is. And then the other person, if they're in light, will go, oh, I got you, okay. And you won't even need to say anything. They will immediately pull back their energy a little bit, because anybody can understand that human nature aspect. If they still keep pushing at you, then they're not in light. They're triggering you. You see what I'm saying? So you're going to want to be around people who respect your boundaries. And so knowing yourself is going to be super instrumental at this period. So once you're in this alignment and everything starts to go well, you'll notice that you get removed off the board. And what I mean by that is literally you will be minding your own business. And you won't have to wear certain colors. You won't have to be like, you still have to pray every day, by the way. I pray, well, I commune all day long at this point. I commune all from the morning that I get up all the way to when I go to bed. But that's my path. That's the path because the Divine and I are talking about a lot of stuff. But when it comes to, when I was going through it, like initially, like a general person from what I understand, is just pray a lot. Like pray throughout your day. And that's what I'm going to say, because there's everybody has their own like background, right? So if you're Christian and Catholic, you have a specific set of things that you should be doing, and you have leaders that are more than capable of helping guide you. Find those leaders that speak your language and go that route. If you are into the occult, like, then go with the occult. I don't know much about that section, because that's not, I don't judge it, but for me, because I believe in unity, God's uniting the tribes. So each of the tribes has variables, is what I'm saying. So probably the cult wouldn't be the best example to use, but I still have love for humanity and my fellow man, and they have no influence on me in a negative way. That power has been removed. So I look at everybody like brothers and sisters. Having said that, there are some groups that will just not get... If you are known for doing specific type of manipulation tactics, then don't be surprised if people who are in a different house that don't use that manipulation tactic don't want to get along with you. You see what I'm saying? So, but I'm standing in the middle. I've got my position is in the middle. And so I see everybody's grace and beauty and stuff like that, but I'm the first one to say, you bring drama from this direction and you're out. You bring drama from this direction, you're out. Like, it's just because we're trying to find the balance. You know, God is made up of all of us. We are all divine beings. And so when we've learned to unite, then we will find a way to bridge the gaps, if that's supposed to happen. But be aware that the tests that you open up can be your own test of integrity. And what I mean by that is, if you are looking down your nose at a peer group that is not in alignment with your house, then understand that you have now opened that door for them to attack, right? Because when you are in your truth, then no one bothers you. Like the cult thing, that doesn't faze me. I came through that. That's how I found my light. So I'm not a hypocrite. Now I'm looking at them going, okay, well, I see why people have some questions, but I still love you. So, okay, so tell me what you're going to say. And it does nothing to my sphere. Nothing. Okay? Now, if I was still very heavily Catholic and I hadn't gone through my own process, then I would have a problem with that, right? And that would be perfectly acceptable. The divine is totally down with that, because everybody has their own connection with the divine. But you have to be cautious of the fact that when you add fire to fire, when you sit there and you cast a stone, and you're in, because it's spiritual warfare. If you do a spiritual warfare and you even open the door, then they now have an entrance in. You see what I'm saying? So what I would recommend is for people, and this is a recommendation, y'all do what you're going to do. You talk to the divine about what you're going to do. But just don't acknowledge it. The less power you give something that you don't agree with, the more power you keep for yourself. Does that make sense? Just guide your people. Just guide your followers. Just guide the people who are in your houses, and guide them towards the divine. That's it. That's what we're supposed to do. We're not the judge and jury, right? Now, having said that, dark magic, there's this thing. Okay, so just because we don't all agree that there is magic in the world, like people don't think that that's possible and all that stuff, because they think that God doesn't give certain people certain gifts and stuff like that. That's fine. Everybody has their own wording and their own language. I'm not going to judge. But just because you don't believe in something doesn't mean that another person doesn't. And if they put enough effort and energy, they can use words to do stuff. Be aware of that. And that's when you go on the fucking defensive and you defend your fucking house. But you don't do it in a way that's triggering. You do it in a sense of control, in alignment with the divine. You check. The divine tells you what to say. Typically, they guide you. They're always going to give you free will, but they're going to guide you in what direction you should be going and what you're going to say. And typically, for me at least, the divine gives me my words, and they're like, they will burn people like I'm alive. But that's just alignment. And first of all, there are a lot of people on the side that people would say that I'm on this side or that side, and both sides equally don't like me a lot of times because I just say the truth and they don't like it. Well, that's their tough shit. That's not my problem. And you got to be willing to say that. You know, that's not my bag. You've got your own bag. You want to carry that into the hell? Go right ahead, because you're gonna have to burn. When we go through at the end of purification, when the fire comes, you're the one that's gonna burn, not me. So just be aware of that. That's why I always tell people, you do what you got to do, but just don't even look at me sideways, because I'm gonna go right on through. I got the keys. I got my keys. I'm good to go. So having said that, keep your eye on your paper, on your task, on what you're doing, but just remember the virtues that you need to have in order to complete the purification process, which I'm going to go into in a second. That's the notes that I have right here. But I want you all to remember that every being on the planet, everything on earth is a divine being. It's all part of God, right? So understand that. Now, people who are abusing it and doing negative stuff, we don't judge them because judgment is coming. It's already in play. They've already showed their hands. They're on their way out. Like, I can't even tell you how bad it's going to get for them, but just know that, it's going to be hard to watch. But it's something that as divine beings, we've been told ahead of time. When judgment comes, and I tell you to go, that's what the divine says to me to do. When I tell you to go, you go and you don't look back. Do not look back. Don't look to the side. Don't look at nothing else. Don't look at your cousins or your exes or your blah, blah, blah. Your kids are going to go with you because that's who you are. Do not look back. Just know that. Okay? So, because that day's quick. So let's discuss what it is that we're talking about as far as the testing phase during the purification process. So as a purified form of self, you're going to have the detoxes removed, and you're going to be standing more in alignment of white light, and you're going to be in a much better place. You're going to be happy all the time, because I'm super happy every day. And you're going to be in communion with God all day. And you're going to be walking around and having just the best of love and light and just stuff like that. There'll just be blessings upon blessings upon blessings. Because you realize that it's not materialism that you're after. It's the abundance you have is a spiritual abundance, and from everything comes from that. So instead of waiting for something specific, just open yourself up to all things, and all things become yours. Okay. So let's talk about the 7 virtues. So the 7 virtues, as defined by, I'm going to go with, because I was raised Catholic, and so I'm just going to go with the 7 virtues that I had in catechism. Okay. So faith. I put them in a different order. So it's usually 4 cardinal virtues, and then 3 additional ones, right? So, but I'm just going to go through the list I have. So let's follow along. There's 7 total. So faith, and I have my notes right here. Faith is actually, let's do the 7. So it's faith, hope, charity, justice, prudence, temperance, and courage. Those are the 7 that they have listed, right? So faith being my predominant one, which is believing in God's promises, trusting in His faithfulness, and relying on God's character and beliefs to act. Okay. 2, hope. A combination of the desire for something and expectation of receiving it. The virtue is hoping. Receiving it. The virtue is hoping for divine union and so eternal happiness. So in that, let me read that because I kind of chopped it up. Hope is a combination of the desire for something and expectation of receiving it. And the virtue is of hoping for divine union and eternal happiness. Okay? Now, while faith is a function of the intellect, hope is an act of divine will. Very important, okay? These are things you're going to be tested on during your charity. The friendship of man for God, which unites us to God. The habit of charity extends not only to the love of God, but also to the love of our neighbor. I'm going to stress this real clear, like ding, 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 bells, 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 bells. But this is a big part of your testing. Just FYI. Justice. Now, this is an interesting definition of justice that I was given. So, okay, justice. The moderation or mean between selfishness and selflessness, between having more and having less than your fair share. Read that again, guys. Pay attention. Justice. The moderation or mean between selflessness and selfishness, between having more and having less than one's fair share. That is justice in the sense of the divine. Okay. I think you guys are getting what I mean by that. Okay. Next, I put prudence, because for me prudence is really important. It's the ability to govern or discipline oneself. It's a form of discernment, but it's self-actualization, right? Temperance is a moderation or voluntary self-restraint. It's a balancing, but it's self-related. Again, but it's based, with temperance, I'd say that honestly, temperance comes more as a cosmic level, like your universal quality is more of a temperance thing. Because there are temperance angels, right? There are temperance angels that come in to rebalance order. And the opposite side of temperance would be the trickster, right? Like those are opposing ends of each other. You got to be careful of the trickster. Right. But if you're in divine light, don't forget, I mentioned this before, if you are a divine servant, the trickster becomes your friend. Because the trickster doesn't trick you. What it does is it tricks those around you who are going to hurt you. And so if you're in alignment, then what happens is that, because remember, the trickster is the brother, there's the male counterpart to temperance. Temperance is the feminine that rebalances. The trickster is the one that comes in and, like, when you're on a lower extension, will fuck you up so that you have to make amends. And so you can't avoid what is being shown to you. But if you're in divine light, if you're a divine being, a child of God, then the trickster is your best friend, because what it does is it will trigger all of the people in your direct vicinity to show their faces. You see what I'm saying? So it'll make them do stupid shit that you can't, once you see the truth, you can't unsee the truth. And so it saves your ass in the long term. You see what I'm saying? So it's a perspective shift. I know it's a little tricky one, but it's there. Now, courage, number 7, is the choice and willingness to confront agony, pain, danger, uncertainty, or intimidation. It's good. Physical courage is bravery in the face of physical pain, hardship, even death, or threats of death. And moral courage is the ability to act rightly in the face of popular opposition, shame, scandal, discouragement, or personal loss. That's a big one. I'm going to point out, I smoked a cigarette before. So it's like my throat chakra is also, whenever I speak certain things that are true, like for me personally, this is just a personal thing. Sometimes when I speak some certain truths that I'm needing to be cautious of my wording, my throat will tell me, but that's a physical thing of mine. It's not a tell, by the way, because it comes only in certain situations. It's usually when someone in particular is watching. Rightly. So when it says rightly, it says moral courage is the ability to act rightly in the face of popular opposition, shame, and so forth. Now remember, you always want to land on the right hand of the divine. If you receive the left hand of the divine, you're not talking about Gabriel, right? When Gabriel comes in and knock it off, like, you know, it's the left hand of God that passes judgment. It's the right hand of God that we want to live on, if that makes sense. Now, y'all remember, scripture and all that stuff, there's a beautiful, powerful person on the world that they're taking care of all that. I will leave that scripture stuff and all of their strengths to them. I'm the first one to give credit to all of the people that are part of this particular frequency, so understand that if I know who you are, I'm going to give you a shout out. If you don't want me to do that, that's fine. I'm not going to take it offensively, because I'm not all egoish. I'm not even worried about it. If you don't want to be part of the tribe, then don't be part of the fucking tribe. But what we're trying to do is unite our planet. So unity is the answer. Divisiveness is going to lead you down the wrong path, and you're going to be alone. But it does still serve within the 7 virtues. But see, then you just prolong your tests. But that's between you and your higher self. I can't tell you all what to do. But these are the things those are the 7 key things, traits that they're going to be testing you while you're in purification and during this, especially this era that we're in right now. Remember where this is all heading, y'all. Okay? Because one of the biggest things I can see coming down the road is beings that were meant to make it that turn around at the last fucking minute and they lose it all. It does not matter what your opinion is of another person. It doesn't matter if you don't think that they're doing a good job in their service to the divine. It doesn't matter if you think they're in the league with the devil. None of that is your fucking concern, y'all. I cannot stress this enough. You lead your people. You look at your paper. Because God doesn't hand keys to nobody unless they are worthy. Don't question his... don't do that. And what I read you, when the divine says go, and the leadership in this frequency says go, and if we're anointed and told to do so, go. Don't stop for nobody. Don't stop to check for nothing. Don't ask what. At that point, you should be so solid in yourself, in your connection to the divine, that when you hear go, you fucking go, and don't turn around. What I mean by that is don't second guess yourself. Don't start doing all that stuff. You must be in control of yourself and in a purified state, in alignment when you hear the message, because it's going to be soft. Just telling you right now. here's what I'm going to give you guys as far as what I was personally tested on when I went through this. These are additional attributes I will say you really, really are going to have heavy hits on. One, your honesty. The quality of being honest at all times, and no matter what you're facing. Because I used to get this when I was going through Ascension, where it was like I got fired once from a job for being honest. Oh well. I mean, it sucked at the time, but it's a good thing I did it, huh? Humility, a modest or low view of one's own importance. Humbleness. That's really big with the divine. Because some of you are about to be handed the keys to the palace, and in order to get into that frickin' palace, you better be the humblest mother out there. Because if you have an ego, you're not coming in. If you have some sort of chip on your shoulder, you're not going to get it. Because the power that you are getting is your own power that's being restored to you. And so the first slide, like I'll give you a perfect example. Let's say that you are someone who dreamt and you've been humble and you've done the purity thing and you've been in alignment with the divine, and let's say they give you an Oscar nominated film and you star in that film and no one's ever seen you before, and then you get the role, you do an amazing opportunity, you get the Oscar nomination, and then you start treating the maids or the people around you like shit. You want to see how fast that shit goes bye-bye to you. You see what I'm saying? And then scandal and all this other stuff comes in because you open that house to the devil. So just be aware of that. So be humble. Be kind. I love that song. Honesty, so that's honesty, humility. Next, integrity. You're going to be tested on your integrity. The quality of being honest and having strong moral principles or moral uprightness. Now, that's super important, but that's self-explanatory. Next is grace. Here's the thing, guys. Just because we're exiting to a higher, a different level, and we're what's it called, leveling up, doesn't mean that you don't have grace. You are graceful, right? So grace is simple elegance or refinement of movement or courteousness, goodwill, courteous goodwill towards all. I'm gonna tell you all right now, Chi-Chi, humble, humility, and grace are the two things that better not be lacking any way, shape, or form, because you're going to be held up. You won't be able to make a decision without them. Love is the strong affection for another arising out of kinship or personal interaction. Okay? But here's the thing. If you're at this level, if you're at this frequency, then your love should be for humanity. Because part of our crosses to bear for a lot of us is the fact that we didn't feel that we were loved or lovable. So say it with me. I am lovable. I am lovable. I am lovable. And I'm going to tell you the secret. When this all came at the end there, when I got the last key there, I was told, you're the prize. And I want you guys to say that with me. I am the prize. I am the prize. Because the people that you are coming into in union with the love thing, when you have love and you hold my hair, I love my hair, so I'm going to keep playing with it. Sorry. Sorry. But when it comes to love, you guys are now coming into what I would call the most powerful couples probably ever to be seen on the planet. And these are divine unions that were orchestrated, that have been planned for eons. And the only way to gain that is to have the love of self, to stand in your own power, and to know that you are the prize, because then you get the equal prize. And so now you have two energies that are unbreakable, and when these two bond, it's a holy union for the rest of their lives. These two will never, it's like whatever animal, I can't remember which animal, was it penguins that do for life? You will never be broken, ever. You're going to have to work at it. I mean, we're human beings. It's a free will thing. You're still going to have free will. It's just that you're at a different level now. So understand that love typically will be the love of humanity, and from the love of humanity, you will find the love of your life. Because you're pouring so much positivity into the world and so much I shouldn't say alchemy, but it's a form of alchemy. I'm going to take back that word. Alchemy is just the ability to change one thing into metal, one solid into a metal. So because people use it in the occult, let's try to use it for the sake of transmutation. Let's just go with transmutation. We're transmuting more energy into love and light than we are into sadness, dark, or oppression, or control. Oh, cautious with your words. Be careful how you phrase things when you ask in prayer, because I got an earful the other day. Okay, humanitarian is concerned with society and seeking to promote human welfare. That's super important, because if you're not here to help humanity, then what the fuck are you doing here? Because the divine's not looking for people who are self-indulgent. That's already done. Those people are, they're going to have their own, they have to go through their own fire. Divine grace. Now, there are three things I'm going to point out to you. Humility, divine grace, and grace in general. But the divine grace is self-explanatory. A divine influence which operates in a human to regenerate or sanctify, to inspire virtuous impulses, and to impart strength to endure trials and resist temptation. And acting on behalf of divine origin. Divine grace is one of the biggest things that is like a huge topic with the divine lately with our conversations, is when you're on your way through the divine, what I call the divine gates to the kingdom, everybody's going to have a different experience. But one thing that I've noticed really, really, really strongly was how many people ended up at the fucking gate, like right at the gate, and they didn't cross. Because they were so busy making their word the only word, and forgetting that that's not their word, it's God's word. And God says who comes into his kingdom. You see what I'm saying? So be very cautious of that moment, because I've seen, and they get stuck there. They just don't go in. They don't go in. And I'm just sitting there I almost feel kind of bad for them. But then I would be fucking myself over, because then I'd be looking back. And that's what I mean. Everyone has to make their own choices along the way. But I'm just saying that we're nearing the point when something's about to appear. The test is over. Grades are in. It's done. And then those that go forward will go forward together. And those that decided to be all combative and egomaniacal and afraid and wouldn't make decisions and started to talk down about the others and were casting stone, all of them are going to stay behind. Okay? It is what it is. Remember, I said it in one of my articles, I think it was over a year ago now, where I said, God is not interested in how many make it through. And it's not even a majority. It could be 5 fucking people. It's the 5 right people to go through. The divine wants the purity, wants the intellect, wants the ability to discern and the ability to love. That is who's going into creator status. This is about creators. This is about who is going to be in alignment with the divine, who is his understudies. And so if you are worried about other people doing this and, this is against my faith, then how is it your faith? It's God's faith. You just happen to have it. It's a rented quality. The one thing you have is your personal integrity, and you have the ability to stand by your faith. Then you take ownership, but it's not your faith from the get-go. It's God's will. You are the vessel. And so be very cautious that when you start casting stones, that you're living in a glass house. You're not perfect. Otherwise, we wouldn't be going through the purification process. None of us would be here. We would already be in divine light. We wouldn't be here. So I'm just saying, be very careful of it, because there are a lot of people who are getting stuck at the gate and are not going to be let in. This is about uniting the planet Earth. This is about because everyone here is an aspect of the divine. And the more of us that make it through, the more whole that we return to the divine. You see where I'm going here? It's important for us to remember that we are all equal in the divine light. God does not make mistakes. Everyone here has purpose. Everyone here is a reason for being here and has a valid experience that is worthy of the information that it brings up. Do not try to stop that process. There are people here who were literally born masters that are descending. They came down to wrap up entire chain of events that have had the worst lives known to man, and that may not make it the way that you make it just because we are walking into the light of our own volition. Some of us are carrying people who are going to make it, who you would say they don't deserve it, but you don't know that their contract was to go through the lowest of low situations in order to once and for all get rid of that scenario. So they're going to be fractured. They're going to be hurt. They're not going to be in touch. So who are you to denounce them when God has already made a contract with that person? Because that person is going to be your boss. Like, you never know. So just don't cast stones at anybody right now, because you don't. We are interacting with God as far as the divine is willing to interact with us. When you step into full power, you become nothing but love. If you don't have that undenying love, then you still got work to do. And I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just saying that we still all have work to do. Even I don't fall into perfect harmony with that. But when you walk out into the world, what are you carrying? Are you always on guard? Because if you're on guard, then there's a red flag right in front of you that you're not seeing. Because I walk into the world completely not on guard, and I have the best life I've ever had. I'm just completely happy all the time. And people are like, oh, and that's a manipulation by them. When people tell you, oh, how can you be happy at a time like that? Excuse me? You can't, you have no power at this house, which, keep going. Because of my strength and my divine love, and because of who I am and how connected I am to the divine, I'm uber protected, and I don't doubt God. So let me walk into my life and have the best fucking life I've ever had in my life. And you can watch in the shadows, and you can judge and do whatever you want to do. But at the end of the day, you will watch. I'm untouchable in that way. Because I don't let the devil in the house. There's no reason for me to doubt this. I have proved my entire year on mission was a 100% guaranteed experience. And man, the divine hit that ball out of that park. I've never even looked at it again in sideways. But I did the walking. I did the talking. I had to go through the path. So all of us have that. So just be cautious. Don't ever let anybody try. If you're having a good day, now, like I said at the beginning, though, if someone says to you, I'm cramping or I'm not feeling well, this isn't really helping me. Can you mind? That is super respectful. Then you can't say nothing. That's like, okay, and then just pull away. But anybody else who comes at you, oh, well, you're not connected to the earth. You're being too in the sky. You're not. Blah, blah. Guess what? Where are we heading? The sky. If you can't get that, then you're not making it. And here's the thing, because this is a buddy of mine, someone I know on a spiritual level. Never met him in this lifetime. I've tried, but at this point I'm not trying. But this individual is a king and just an amazing human being. Not like the heavenly, I'm talking like just a king in my eyes. And just someone who I just think the world of, who has become exceedingly negative. And for someone like me, I'm not going to have that negativity around me. I'm not going to do it. Drop it, leave it at the door. Turn around, do an about face, and go. Because whatever direction that this person is going in, it's taking them down into a place where they have no hope, they have no faith. Then how the fuck are you going to be of service to the divine? And it's not like this person's gone. Like they're like baby steps into this. But for me, it's like you got to understand at the frequency that I'm at. It's all like it's really positivity. I have the faith in humanity. Every person that I'm connected to, I have faith in, even if we don't agree. I believe in divinity. I believe in divine intervention. I believe in love. I believe in light. But drama and negativity, keep it to yourself and don't bring it around me. I'm not allowing that in my world. Because at the end of the day, there's a buddy of ours that is not feeling its best right now because it's become so toxic down here that it's not getting any love back. Well, we're here to change that. We are guiding the people who are willing to do the work to the light of God and to bring that joy and love back into that light, into that life, into that energy. If you are having issue with it, then don't worry about me. If you are casting stones and being a dick, then go be a dick someplace else. You have no power here. Right? And that's not I'm not having an ego moment. I'm just telling you the truth. And you don't have to take my truth. But then don't come towards me. But don't be mad if I take the ship and go on and take those. You see what I'm saying? Like all of us have our own vessels. And we're all responsible for our mountain. And so for energies that want to come into this power mountain here, understand that it's not going to be drama, it's not going to be bullshit, it's not going to be a bunch of negativity, it's going to be a bunch of people who want to work together and help humanity because our boss needs us and is walking in divine guidance with us. And that unity is not our place to interact and to try to tell somebody how to work it. You know what I mean? So I just wanted to share that with you guys. I'm going to go to the beach today and let the hair flow and just have a magical day. I hope you guys are blessed. I hope you have the best possible light and love and everything today. I will check with you guys later on. Bless.